Eccentricity and genius often go hand in hand. Human history is littered with examples of people who have developed theories so challenging to their time that contemporaries have derided the theories as absurd and their creators as cranks. Sometimes, however, history has shown the theorists and not their denigrators to be correct.
The oldest relic we have here is the hot air balloon, which was manufactured by the ancient Egyptians in 3250 BC by King Scorpion. So just like we started off with hot air balloons, the ancient Egyptians started off with hot air balloons. And this is made from, the original conception was taken off a wall picture. This is Mayan aircraft, but the fuselage comes from Colombia. So they did a deal. The Colombians made the fuselages and the Mayans made the wingspans.
Looks like
Is that airplane?
no. I don't think so.
This is a very neat little weapon. Big wingspans. They went down the side of the pyramid and then they took off.
William Deach lives in Brentwood, England. In the early 1980s, he discovered that he could reassemble a piece of winged jewelry from the tomb of Tutankhamun into a model of a glider aircraft, which successfully performed a test flight. He has made and tested more than 300 scale models of full-size glider aircraft and hang gliders that would originally have been constructed out of papyrus, the paper-like product made by ancient cultures.
That's the first plane that I discovered in 1982. This is a kind of the latest version of it. I must have made about 50 versions of it, but this is basically the end of the line product, the last modified aircraft. A plane from the Tutankhamun era. It has a cockpit here, which is protected, but shielded. This is the original plan, which the aircraft is designed from. Here is the cockpit of the plane, that's here. Here are the two Isis and Nephris, here, with their hands joined together. This is the nose of the aircraft. This, of course, is the wings. And what you do is you stick the plane on the top of the obelisk, like so, and the plane is now standing about 100 foot off the ground. And around about midday, you get enough thermal current coming off the ground to lift the plane straight off the deck without having a runway. It'll just take off.
And then what would happen?
You fly around till dusk or whatever what he wants to do.
So if it has enough force to lift it, it's got enough, the thermals would move it.
Oh yeah, it could climb at 1,000 foot a minute. That's how good the thermals are out there. Then you have a ridge current, which can carry it 200 or 300 miles up and down the River Nile, with various airports where he could land at.
What do you think happened to Tutankhamun?
Tutankhamun probably crashed into one of the high mountains that surround Luxor. The ancient Egyptians, around about 3000 BC, invented the sail, and then they started exporting their ideas to other countries of the world and took their aircraft with them. The culture spread from ancient Egypt to Turkey, and from Turkey to India, from India to China to Japan, and then it went to Mexico, Peru, Colombia, and all stations around there. They had an international aircraft code which all the countries seem to have used. In a book here called The Tantric Way, which is a very religious Indian Tibet book, we discover that the ancient people are worshipping things like tailplanes of aeroplanes. They will use, here's a plan of an aeroplane here, which is supposed to be a very sacred and venerable god that makes you very high. Here is the plane. This is a plane of a, this is a design of a plane which flies very, very well. But is in actual fact a tantric, it is worshipped as a god.
Our current understanding of ancient cultures is rooted in the discovery of the Victorian explorers, who had no knowledge of aviation. To them, winged figures in Egyptian artifacts were representations of birds, or they saw them symbolically as depictions of gods.
The first stage is you write to the British Museum and say, I've made a wonderful discovery that the ancient Egyptians had flight. And they wrote back and said, absolute rubbish, goodbye. The people that discovered the artifacts that you see in the museums today are not aviation engineers, and they couldn't put 2 and 2 together to make 4. They made 3. I mean, all they turn around and say is 2 gods together on a heraldic shield. They never bothered to take the plan to pieces to sort out what it was all about. The main thing, you see, if an aircraft doesn't fly, then it's not an aircraft. But if they fly, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Right, this aircraft comes from the north of India. As you see, it's got a very large wingspan, big tailplane, and rudder. How do we derive the actual design? Well, here is the fuselage. Once again, 2 feet are joined together to form the base of the rudder. These 2 sections here are actually the rudder, and this is the tailplane. And you have to cut the hands, and the hands actually go underneath the wings. As you can see, the hand is going underneath the wing here, and underneath the wing here to act as a support. And this part is support as well.
The magic or flying carpet is still alive as a popular notion today. William Deach has discovered how to decode the aircraft plans that are contained in some of the ancient carpets.
This is a fuselage. This part here is the tailplane. This section here is the front wing. This part is the tailplane. The whole thing, when put together, is a magic carpet that flies. Magic carpet. Oh, right. Goodbye, pilot. Oh. Yeah, that flies pretty good in these conditions. The Egyptian ones are not flying because we haven't got the right heat. There's a belt where you can have the planes flying. It's basically just above the equator. It has to have virtually 0 rain, because if you have rain and paper planes flying around, the 2 things just do not go together.
William Deach's discovery of ancient airplane plans, disguised as jewelry, carved on the sides of pyramids, or in numerous other artifacts, are the remnants of a technological age in which papyrus was the central element. Deach calls this the paper age, as important an age as the stone, bronze, and iron ages.
Yes, we're from the tax department. That's free, isn't it, to the tax inspectors?
He came to realize that the ruins of many cultures were not temples or palaces to gods, but were airports and aircraft factories.
So we have Kos, Giza, Queen Hatshepsut's airport, Those are the major airfields. This is the airfield of Kos. It's one of the Greek islands. All secret, this is. This is where Icarus probably took off from and got his wings burned and plunged into the sea on fire. A Mexican airport, Toltec. Here we have the central runway to come into land, and the aircraft were launched from the tops of the pyramids. They winch the plane up to the top here, and then it goes down the runway and lifts off before it hits the ground. The airfield of Queen Hatshepsut opposite Luxor. There's a parking bay, probably repair sheds here, and customs or whatever you like.
William Deach became immersed in ancient Egypt while researching a book on the building of the pyramids. Jenny Humphreys, a writer and researcher, and Deach's wife, has assisted him in developing his theories. Deach has received recognition for his work on ancient flight, with a listing in the Guinness Book of World Records, Who's Who in the World, and the 1987 Rolex Awards for Enterprise.
It was very strange. It was the very day that the tomb of Tutankhamun had been opened for 50 years.
Was that the day we had that lecture down the school with Nancy Croft and
Something
several?
like that. That we actually got the first plane to fly. And the curse of the pharaohs arrived at Railway Square in Brentwood.
Yeah, and say that again.
Right?
What do you mean by that?
Well, he who opens the tomb of the pharaoh is cursed by the pharaoh.
Well, Hamdi said you get instant justice.
I did. I had to build 300 planes, flying all over the place.
Now, you first saw this jewellery thing, right? And you thought, if I cut that up and stick it together, it'll make a plane.
And it flew. I thought to myself, this is terrific. I've discovered something. Right, here we have what is called the Ankh, which you will see the ancient Egyptians carry around with them like this. You see them carried around. Now, this is connected to a part of the brain. If it turns clockwise, it means yes. If it turns anti-clockwise, now I'm not fiddling this, it means no. Or, sorry, if it goes backwards and forwards, it means no. And if it goes anti-clockwise, it means reject the whole idea anyhow. I wondered why the Egyptians carried them around, so I decided to build one and find out what it did. And it's basically an advanced pendulum. And people use pendulum for divining to find water or gold or minerals or things like this. They use either twigs or, in my case, I use an Ankh. And it's a kind of king-size model. It's been a very good one. It's made of copper wire here, and this is a wooden frame, which I've kind of jazzed up with silver paper.
And do you think anybody could use this thing?
You have to be psychically tuned to do this. It takes practice.
Deach wants to prove his theory by building one or more full-sized ancient aircraft. Despite his best efforts, he has been unable to raise any funds for this expensive endeavor that would have to take place on site in Egypt.
Here is the plan. Everything fits into everything. You have to cut round very carefully here. The next section is the tailplane, which we'll start to cut, which is the two ladies, one called Isis and the other one called Nephres. The lady on the left-hand side, if you notice the size of her hands, they are smaller than the lady on the right-hand side. So this is an indication that you have to place one over the other like this to form the rear wing. And the other section has to go underneath. So we have, that is how the wings are attached to the tailplane. We bring the anchor up and we say, is this the front of the aircraft? And he says, no, it's at the front of the aircraft. And he says, yes. So that's where the nose cone goes on. And that is the tailpipe. Thank you very much, Hank. Gelatin was a secret. Animal bones. They melted down animal bones, or people, put them in a big pot, and they used the gelatin, which they coated onto the paper, and the plane would actually shape itself. As I said, my aim in life is to make a full-scale model and turn them out one every 3 hours and send them towards London, loaded with high explosive, aimed at the British Museum to prove that ancient flight actually took place.
So what have you got going here?
Basically, a chemical engine. Right.
What's that powder you just opened?
Potassium permanganate, which has been around for years. Right, you've got the cameras rolling. There goes. There's your afterburner. If I put that in the tailplane of an aircraft with 5 gallons of fuel, you get about 500. The plane would take off at about 500 miles an hour. That is why the Pharaoh had to wear the thing underneath a beard to avoid his neck being broken by the terrific thrusts these planes had when they took off. This is a photograph of King Tutankhamun's flying suit. His headdress to protect his head, this part here to protect his neck, and that part at the back to protect the back of his neck. But you see it as a flying suit because it's got the flying emblem on it here. This is a creme de creme. This is my favorite. I could get that baby off the ground in Egypt. It'd have to be in Egypt, and I'd show them. If I crashed and killed myself, I would say, well, to hell with that. It didn't work, but I'm so confident that it would work. There it is. It's such a beautiful aeroplane anyhow. She's going. Now, tail flip. What actually was a downfall of the aviation industry was basically the wheel. It was safer to travel by road than it was to travel by plane. Another reason that the aircraft began to decline was that the ancient races used up all the material that they used to build the aircraft with. They used up all the papyrus. And by doing so, they turned the Nile region into a desert.
Going home.
One for Jenna, all
I
right?
love you now.
Oh, he's lovely, little boy.
He's cute because he likes to tell. Biscuits.
From who? Who'd you get it from?
Willow. Yeah. There was another biscuit.
There are references to flight in ancient Chinese, Christian, Indian, and Tibetan writings. Ancient Chinese Emperor Shun, and later Emperor Chen Tang, had flying machines constructed and flown. The Babylonian Halkatha laws include a statement that, to operate a flying machine is a great privilege. Knowledge of flying is most ancient, a gift of the gods of old for saving lives.
The magic carpet. From Vancouver. Beautiful. Now, it'll show you the air currents in the room. Oh, look at that. I proved to myself that the ancients had flight. Whether the rest of the world accepts it, it's up to them. But I think I've got enough material to kind of say, right, that's it.